All my rather extensive adult life, I've watched liberals and conservatives pass back and forth through each other like great amorphous jellyfish, and they've been just as hard to pin down. It's a fascinating political shell game, and you always lose. The fact is, my friends, there is virtually no difference between the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party. They are both after power, and given it, they will wield that power on behalf of the establishment, no matter what their platforms say. Let's for a moment think about the Canadian establishment. It's the nature of today's establishment that makes the avowed platforms of both Liberals and Conservatives virtually irrelevant. Once upon a time, part of the Canadian establishment was known as the Family Compact. That was in Upper Canada, Ontario. And the other part was known as the Chateau Clique in Lower Canada, Quebec. A couple of armed rebellions sorted out those establishments and in fact gave us responsible government, where the executive, the Prime Minister and the Cabinet became answerable to the members of Parliament in the House of Commons. After the Compact and the Clique were dethroned, the Canadian establishment still continued as a layer of society made up of people of influence, education, wealth, members of the professions, business, the church, academia. Let's face it, the elite, the privileged. Sometimes, when elected to Parliament, these men, and yes, thank God there were occasionally women, understood that they were supposed to represent the people. You. Sometimes they even understood the meaning of responsible government and its relation to democracy. But today's establishment is quite a different thing. Today's establishment has morphed. I love that word, morphed. It's what happens in sci-fi movies when a seemingly human character is reconstituted, usually with much slime and contortions, into an alien monster. The old establishment has been morphed into a pack of monsters, all right, alien ones to boot. I call them corporate creatures. You know full well I'm not talking about our town's business people who happen to be incorporated. They have their charters to do business. Of course they do. No, I'm talking about monsters. In recent months, they've been revealed as predatory creatures, feeding off your taxes, your savings, your labor. Ironically, it's their own greed that has made their presence more evident. Today's corporate creatures, today's new establishment, I use the term new out of charity. The truth is it's been hovering over us for decades, but keeping a low profile with the use of much smoke and many mirrors. Anyway, this new establishment is composed of creatures created by our own imaginations, our legislative imaginations. They are not human. They are not flesh and blood. They have been analyzed by psychiatrists who say that if they were human, they'd be sociopaths. Some say psychopaths. Have you ever seen a corporate creature? You have not. They are invisible. And yet our governments make treaties that permit us to be collectively sued for a creature's loss of potential profit. If some of an agricultural creature's patented seed blows into a farmer's field, the farmer is sued for infringement of copyright. These illusory entities demand to exercise our human right of free speech. These fictitious beings don't even have a biological lifespan. A number of years ago, as a playwright, I tried to describe them. One character, a governor, is talking to a merchant and says, "We men at least create our gods in our own image and ignore them at will. But our companies we hallucinate into a reality more real than ourselves. Oh yes, When we have all gone raving off the precipice, our companies will be left to assess our demise as profit or loss, counting the total on an abacus made from the ivory of our own bones. Today, those corporate creatures dominate our lives. If you've just lost your job because your workplace has been shipped off to another country, if half your fellow workers have just been fired while the CEO got an enormous bonus for improving the bottom line, if you just reached retirement as your life savings were cut in half, don't pretend it's got nothing to do with the freewheeling new establishment. And why does this new establishment function so freely and so ruthlessly? Because our governments, both liberal and conservative, have permitted it. Government that used to serve you now serves the new establishment. This new establishment has its own ideology. In its ideology, war is profitable and endless war is endlessly profitable. Oh, you say that's our friends to the south. Their problem. I'm afraid not. Check out our military-industrial complex, our arms sales. Our noble history of peacekeeping is underscored by a trade in arms to nations who then break the peace. In fact, we're almost out of the peacekeeping business. We're warriors now. Of the 30 OECD countries, we're number 5 in per capita military spending. Very profitable for the new establishment. Swallow your blue helmet pride. Your illnesses are profitable and will be more so as we are maneuvered out of pooling our resources to help each other over the hurdles. The new establishment is working hard on that problem. Hospitals are already being run like corporations. They're being forced to compete for market share. It's the same principle that drives meat packers. Crime is profitable, if only we can be persuaded to let corporations build and run more of our prisons. Every prisoner who does time and then eventually returns to a corporate-run lockup is good for the bottom line. Full cells are good for business. In this world of the new establishment, you pay the shot, but the denizens of the new establishment reap the profit. Natural disasters are profitable. They are seen as good for the gross domestic product. Since the GDP is calculated on the basis of how much money is flowing, it follows that an entire region may be laid waste by hurricane, flood, or quake, or oil. I wrote this before the Gulf of Mexico disaster. And as long as your money is flowing into some pocket somewhere under the guise of being useful, then the GDP rises whether or not a single soul struggles to solid ground. Growth is profitable. Growth is not only profitable, growth is essential to the denizens that compose the new establishment. Unlimited growth is their oxygen, their very lifeblood. So they are busily destroying the boreal forest, a source of our oxygen, and destroying our waters, the source of all life. They don't care, don't understand, they can't, they're not of substance. They've been hallucinated into sociopathic reality and given certificates of citizenship by our own governments. Here, ladies and gentlemen, is where the rubber hits the road.